Guys, I want to show you one of the most incredible challenge locks I think I have ever seen come through the LockLab. This is just amazing in terms of craftsmanship, and oddly, it isn't put together by a locksmith, it's not put together by a machinist, instead it's put together by a couple of carpenters you guys have heard of before from Germany. Tobias and Julian have put this thing together. Very, very cool lock. If you take a look at, this is acrylic, and let me get a probe here and hold this really close. There's a cut here, you can just barely see it, and another one there. This is actually 3 Euro cylinders that they've basically precision cut, fitted together, and put inside of this acrylic to hold everything together. You'll notice that they're numbered. We got a 1, a 2, and a 3, and that's because 1 is supposed to be the easiest one, 2 is intermediate, and 3 is theoretically the most difficult. But I'll tell you, I can't even pick number 1. I've been playing with it for more than a week. This is what the key looks like. It appears to be a 5-pinner, and this is exactly what you'd want to see for a challenge lock. You got some high-low action, but most importantly, that one right there is the highest possible cut, and it's located in the very back of this paracentric Yale-like keyway. And I got to tell you, I have nothing in my arsenal that will allow me to pick something cut that high in the back of this very thin keyway. I've been trying, I just cannot get it. Very cool lock. I'm not really qualified to operate this, but they did send something that I am qualified to operate. Again, these guys are precision carpenters as well as obviously locksmiths and machinists. This is a solid block of wood, and there is a titanium embedded inside of that epoxy that I will never open. If you rotate it to this side, you see we got a little pinning tray, pretty cool. And on this side, we got a little cup to hold all the springs and pins or all the loose parts. On the bottom, we got rubber, and that is because they gave this to me basically as a beating block. They got tired of seeing me beat lock bodies on these very beautiful wood trays. That's blasphemy to carpenters. So they gave me this. This is solid aluminum, and they said I can beat on this to my heart's content. Beautiful. I'm almost afraid to. This also is a work of art. Let's get back to this. If you take the key, now remember, these are progressively pinned, but if this were a real lock, you'd have to get that 180 or all the way around 360, but it's impossible to pick it because when you get to that point, it's going to lock up again. And then of course, same thing happens when you come to position number 3, and then obviously lock up again when you reach the original position. So to get a complete unlock, you'd have to pick this nasty bugger 3 times, and I can't even pick it 1 time. Anyway, I thought what I would do, because they put an awful lot of work into this, and I put an awful lot of time into it myself, just trying to defeat it. I thought I'd like to see what's inside of it and show you guys how much work Tobias and Julian actually put into it. So it is designed to come apart. It's not going to be pretty because, as you can imagine, when I pull the follower out, 3 cylinders are going to spring their pins down into the core at the same time. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to shim 2 and try to unload 1 at a time. And then I'll load them up, each of them, onto a separate tray and show you guys what kind of deviousness Tobias and Julian have put into this thing, as well as, I'm sure, probably more than 100 man-hours putting it together. So stay with me, I'll be back. May not be real soon, and I may be frustrated, and you have to use a lot of cuss words, but I will be back. Got that thing pretty successfully gutted, and it is a 5-pin. All 3 chambers are 5-pinners. There is no threading, surprisingly, on any of these. So the core itself, Again, it's a standard 5-pin core. I didn't see any kind of alien tech inside of there at all. But you know what? It really doesn't need it. All right, chamber number 1. This is what we're looking at. Let me grab my probe here. On the bottom, you'll notice we had what appears to be a spool. This is a steel one, but it looks like it's copper or copper washed. Oop, dropped it on the ground there. Homemade serrated. Another one of these copper wash steel ones. Gosh. Oh, that's totally my fault. I just dropped it on the ground, but it is identical to this guy. And then the last one, little serrated guy. Upstairs, we had a very long spool. We have one standard pin, I think, in the whole lock. Another homemade serrated, another spool, and then the last one in chamber number 5 is actually one that I get it to do it with one hand here. It's got a little serration on it, and then it's one of those 2-piece pins that breaks apart and kind of hangs up in the keyway, screwing up the whole plan. All the pins on this one, pins. All the springs on this one are pretty normal. Chamber number 2. Move that off of there. Okay, no key pins, obviously. They're in the other one, but this is what we were looking at on this guy. There is a hole inside of this pin. It is a 2-piecer. This one's stuck down all the way through him. There's the cat hair. I was wondering if we're going to get to that. This one, anyway, this pin comes all the way, extends all the way through this guy into the cylinder. This is an ASA pin, by the way. This is homemade. Another one of these German pins that are, it's kind of like a spool, but it's got a little tip on it, almost like a T-pin on both ends. This one, another one of these nasty 2-piece pins, hollow one here, all serrated, and then the top is also serrated. Nice long shaft. This one is truly odd. If you take a look at this guy, I don't know how they did this, but let me see if I can get it to focus. All of these are floating rings. This is really a nasty pin. There's 5, I believe. No, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4 floating rings on a little barbell, and these flop back and forth, giving you all kinds of weirdness. It acts like a spool pretty much on every single one of these little segments, except once you get hung up on one spool, that nice sharp edge hangs up on the shear line. Really nasty, nasty pins. I've only seen these once before. It's a lot of work into just that one pin. And then the last cylinder, again, we have all the key pins are in the other one, obviously. We have a 2-piecer, nice sharp little edge, goes up inside of this guy somewhere. We have basically a barrel pin, I think it's called, small on both ends. A very nice spool. A spool, but he's angled. It's almost like a mushroom, not rounded though, squared off. And then the last one is a standard pin. So I don't see that chamber 3. I think this probably would have been the intermediate one, and the previous one I showed you probably would have been truly the hardest one to get through. The only piece of damage I did was on one spring. Pulled them out of there with those tweezers. All the springs are basically the same, except of course the one that I bent. Nasty, nasty lock. An awful lot of work went into this thing. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece of work, I got to say. So Tobias and Julian, you are multi-talented. If you do this precision type work on putting together challenge locks, I can only imagine how beautiful your wood creations must be. I got a little bit of the proof right here, but you guys, you've outdone yourselves. Guys, this is not the last of the prototypes. I have a prototype box, and inside of here is another one that I'm going to save for another video. I'm going to try to beat that one. I'm going to give it a few days, and then we'll get to that one as well. Tobias and Julian, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate all the hard work and design that you put into this. Everybody else, stay safe, guys. Stay legal.